G'day everyone, here I'm going to explain how to use the Tabletop Simulator mod for Europa Universalis, the Price of Power, or Europa, or EUtPoP. Now I'm not going to go through the basics of Tabletop Simulator itself. I'm not going to go through the rules of Europa Universalis itself, but I'm going to go through the features of the mod in particular. There's quite a bit of scripting involved, and there's a lot of features that aren't always so obvious, so let's go. So I've booted up the mod, and we've presented with the main menu where we can select our scenarios. So the first thing that you can see is we've got a filter for number of players, where we can choose our scenarios based on how many players there are. If we're looking for 4-player scenarios, click on the 4 and it is limited to just those scenarios. You also might see we've got a minimize button up in the top right. I can click on that and that minimizes the menu so we can actually see the board and scroll around, look at the map a little bit, have a think about what scenario we want to play. Click on the maximize to bring it back up. There is also this logging button we can click to toggle logging on or off. Turning the logging on means there'll be more messages posted to chat as the scripting in the mod is performing its thing. This can be helpful if you encounter an error. You can turn the logging on. You might be able to tell what's gone wrong, or you can post somewhere to get some help and explain really what's going on. So I've got lots of scenarios. Let's just pick a nice straightforward one, Discovery and Reformation. So we pick the scenario, we click continue, we decide how many players we want. I'm going to go for 5 to include Denmark. Continue, there's scenario information on the right, you can read. You can decide which of the realms will be controlled by bots. Let's make Castile a bot for this demo. And then a few other options here. How many ages you want to play. Let's go through 3, get the events for 3. Do we want Portugal to be a DMPR? In this case, I'm going to say no, turn it off. But I do want power struggles, and I'm not going to randomize the X events. And you notice as I click on the option, the text on the right changes to explain a little bit. Now I'll hit start, and all of the setup for the scenario is done automatically by the scripting. One thing to be aware of when you first open the mod is that you are put into the spectator seat. So my hand icon is grey, it's grey up the top right. This is so that when you load an existing game, you don't accidentally get put in another colour seat. White is often the default, and then you can see perhaps some hidden information you're not supposed to see. But as a spectator, I can't interact with things. So before I do any more, I'm going to click on my name at the top right, change my colour, and I'm going to go blue. Setup is nearly finished. Down in the bottom of the screen, you can see in my hand, I've got the 3 missions, first missions for France, and my starting cards, 1 of each. You can see the instructions in the bottom left. It's reminding me to draw 3 additional action cards, to appoint advisors and leaders, and to keep 4 action cards and 2 missions in the hand. And it seems my physics settings are incorrect. We'll see how we go. So to interact with pieces. So one thing that's been added into Tabletop Simulator, all of the tokens are in their own little containers, and the container matches the token that's inside. So for example, I can drag out royal marriage tokens from the royal marriage container, claims from the claims container. And they can only go back in the same container. If I try to drop it onto royal marriage, it just sits on top, doesn't go in. But I can drop it back on the claim container, it goes back in. Now, if you want to save yourself dragging pieces all over the board, this mod has a feature I like to call Smart Delete. So let's say we've got a royal marriage that's out on the board. Instead of dragging it back, I can actually hover the mouse over it. I can press the delete key. And as a smart delete, that sends the royal marriage token back into the container. Another way to do this, you can drag the piece onto these trash cans, these removed from game, and it will also get put back into the container it came from. For some pieces like the army figures that don't have containers, that smart delete instead sends it back to the place where it came from. So most pieces on the board now have a smart delete feature. Towns as well, the Imperial Influence, Crusade token, alliances, ships, anything that comes from a container. Even if you select multiple pieces at once, I've got some towns, some influence cubes, and an army figure. I can delete them all. And they're all intelligently sent back to where they need to go. Some pieces, like the infantry figures, if I try to delete it, there's a message you can see in the bottom left. It won't get deleted because it might need to go to exhausted or available or the supply. So there are some pieces you cannot delete and you need to drag them around yourself. There are a lot of snap points on this board. If I pick up one of my towns, you'll notice the small ghost showing me that this will snap to all of the province locations on the board, so that if I drop it nearby, it will still land there exactly, so you don't need to place it on exactly the right spot. So this is true for towns and vassals, and alliance tokens, etc. that need to go on a town. This is also true for, say, the expanded trade node tokens. They will snap to trade nodes. And say religion tokens will also snap to the religious slots. One nice feature is that some of the tokens which are double-sided, say the revolutionary tokens and expanded trade node tokens, the opposite side has different snap behavior. So the +1 manpower token, with that face up, it snaps to a town, but with the expanded trade node face up, it now snaps to a trade node. Similarly with this piece, at the moment it snaps to a province. If I flip it over, it will now snap to a religious slot. And I can smart delete that and it gets sent back to its home container. If you want to avoid the snap, let's say the pieces might be a bit tight, that can happen in Italy, or you're just trying to shove something without it snapping on right onto the town. While you've picked up the piece, with the left click, you can hold down the right click button. It goes down onto the board. I can now drag it around, and if I let go now of the left mouse button, it will stay where it is. Of course, I pick it up again, then it will try to snap. Light chips will also snap to trade protection slots. And when they land, they will actually be laid down to show that they're occupying that slot. Now, speaking of snapping and avoiding snapping, we often want to appoint leaders, generals, advisors. They will tuck underneath the board if you use the right snapping feature. So you see there's no ghost here of the card, so it doesn't snap if I just drop it. But if I hold this advisor and then right click while I'm holding it, it is then tucked underneath the player board here. Similarly with a general or a ruler, right click while I'm holding it and it tucks under there. The card becomes locked, I can't drag it out. So I need to right click, click the detach button, and it will slide out for me to pick up again. Put back into my hand. Cards, just like many other pieces, smart delete. I deleted that diplomatic card and it went to the discard pile. I'll go through a few shortcuts, Tabletop Simulator shortcuts that are very useful to know for this mod. First we have the letter R. That's used to shuffle decks of cards. So the military deck, I can press R. That will shuffle it. Also available in the right-click menu. Right-click, shuffle. You can see the R as a shortcut. I can press F to flip. Flip over the cards, face up, face down. Flip towns to the unrest side. This is also in the right-click menu. Flip. F is much faster. For this game, a few pieces need to be laid on their side, and that is part of the flip functionality. So if I have a merchant, I need to lay down because he's activated. F to flip. Rather than flipping upside down, it is laid onto its side. Similarly with light ships, if you want to lay it down where it is, flip, and it lays down. Alt to zoom in. That will blow up whatever piece or card you're hovering over, mostly useful for cards. If it's face down, Alt obviously shows the back. If I press Shift as well as Alt, it will flip the card in my preview. You see this, there was that blue eye, so other players can see that I'm peeking underneath a card. I can use the L key to lock and unlock components, which will stop it from being moved around. So at the moment, the main player boards and the containers are locked. You notice I can't pick up this board. If I really want to lock, say, a town or an army piece for some reason, I can press L. Now it's locked. I can't move it. If I press L again while I'm hovering over it, it will unlock. Rotating pieces can be done with the Q and the E keys. Not used so often in this game, but again with the hover or with the piece picked up, I can press Q and rotate. And in Tabletop Simulator, you can change the angle the rotate performs. I've got mine set to 90 degrees. I find it used for cards. That's the main time I would use it. If you want to draw cards quickly from a deck, you can use the numbers on your keyboard. If I hover the mouse over a deck and I press 1, it draws 1 card into my hand. I press 3 over the trade deck, I can draw 3 cards. So a nice shortcut. Also with the numbers, we can use the smart dice rollers we have in this game. So the dice, we've got unrest, cannons, infantry, cavalry, and also the exploration dice. So instead of picking them up to roll, we can actually use these buttons. 2 ways to do it. You can either click when you have this red button icon showing above the mouse, click on unrest, click a few times, it will spawn that many dice, it will roll them, the result will be printed on the left, and the dice will disappear. No cleanup. You can also use the numbers though. If I press 3 over the infantry dice, 3 of them will be rolled. Another useful part of TTS, Tabletop Simulator, for this mod, searching decks. It's not really a keyboard shortcut, but if you need to find a specific card, you can right click on the deck, click search. Now on the right hand side we have a list of all the cards in the deck, and this works for any container. You might want to use it for the DMPR tokens. Right click, search the container. I want to drag out the green capitals or the orange capitals perhaps, specifically. Close it, flip over. Now I've got a new DMPR. And of course they snap to the province slots. On Windows, at least, I don't know about other operating systems, we can use shortcuts to save camera views, so that I don't need to keep on scrolling down to my player board. I want to save this as a camera bookmark. I can press Control 1, which will save camera 1. And perhaps the milestones I'll save as Control 2. Now I can use Shift number, Shift 1 will bring me back to my player board. Shift 2 brings me back to the milestones. So that can save you a lot of scrolling and dragging around in this game. Now I've gone back to the main menu to show you some extra features for manual setup. So we've gone through most of the main features when you're playing through a scenario, but the manual setup is designed to allow you to build your own scenarios and to minimize setting up individual realms. So we'll choose manual setup. As before, we're starting as a spectator, so I'm going to change my color. In this case, I'm actually going to make myself black, the game master, so I can see all the hidden information, including things hidden in hidden zones. Zoom out a little bit. So all 6 colors are laid out when we choose manual setup, and there are these extra buttons you can see beneath every single board. So the colored buttons beneath the board allow you to swap the colors. So the default arrangement perhaps fits for standard realms, France, Castile, England, and so on, but perhaps I want them in a different order. I would like purple to be first down here, so I can click this button to swap blue with purple. And white instead of green. Alright, I'm happy with that arrangement. Now I want to play on the deluxe board, the full board. So I'm going to right click on the map itself, change the state to deluxe 1444. Now the whole board's available. So to choose the realms to be set up, I'm going to click on this button, click to select realm from the map. That removes these buttons, which are now not useful, and drops these white tokens on the capital of every realm that has a base tax of at least 2. So for this scenario we're building, I'm going to choose Lithuania. So I click on that little Lithuania button, and the white plate is set up as Lithuania. Now the purple player, I actually want to be a bot. So you see this card here, this grey one, is not a button, but actually I can flip it over. Now with the bot side face up, I'm going to select, and I'm going to make Poland a bot here as purple. So that removes the unnecessary components and gives us our bot targeting chart and the bot rules. Now I've realized I don't actually want yellow in this game, so I'm going to click to remove this color. Red, Teutonic Order, green, Muscovy, blue is going to be a bot. I'll make them Great Horde. Now, once all the players are chosen, only then are the alliances and marriage tokens put onto the board. Cards are dealt to each player. And you saw there was a pop-up explaining that I need to remove influence from areas with no NPR provinces and set up imperial authority and extra influence, extra manpower. For example, with Lithuania and Poland both as player realms, the Polish influence here in Lithuania is not useful. It needs to be removed. Now, of course, this will only set up realms. So yes, we get starting rulers, missions, but none of the events. So there is still the work you have to do of building the event decks for the custom scenario. And this is why I chose the black Game Master seat. If we scroll over here, this is all the hidden components of the game set up for other realms. But here are the events. We've got the deck of starting rule setup cards, and by age we have the A events, the B events, and the realm specific events. Age 1, Age 2, Age 3, Age 4. So you need to go through, search the decks, pull out the cards you need, and build your event decks for each age. Then you probably want to decide on your power struggles, shuffle the milestones and move the cards around, and get your starting ideas. So those are all the features for manual setup. my final tip is about the rulebook. This hovering booklet over here. So yes, you can go next page like a normal multi-page PDF in Tabletop Simulator, but it also has a very good index for searching. I want to look for rebels. Rebel dice, rebel units, rebellion, rebels, optional rule for religious rebels. I can click on that reference and it brings me to the page. Optional rules, religious rebels. Not only rules though, but you can search for locations. Let's say I really want to know where the Bohemia area is. I can search. You see it matches an area but also a realm. If I click Bohemia and now look on the map, we have this glowing red pointer to the Bohemia area. If I click on Bohemia, the realm reference, it will cycle through each province in the realm of Bohemia. And it works for trade nodes. Indian Ocean, over here, we can see where the Indian Ocean is. Very handy for some of those distant provinces and trade nodes that you might not always know where they are. So those are all the features I wanted to show you for the Tabletop Simulator mod for Europa Universalis, the Price of Power. You can download this mod from the Steam Workshop. Doesn't cost anything if you have TTS. There is also a fairly active Discord community, a channel where we can discuss the mod. If you have any issues, you can post there, ask for help. We're trying to add new features as well to improve the experience of the game.